to talk about love as the substance of being. I mean, that's what makes life fulfilling to me. So, Maeve, what is awakening and why are we doing a podcast about it?
Good question. Well, the second question is much easier to answer. I'm interested in doing a podcast about awakening because I love awakening, or what we call awakening is something that's so alive and rich and informative in the sense that it's shaping this whole experience that I call my life. And I love to talk about it and to share this experience that I have with others and maybe to connect with other people around this. And this question, what is awakening? It's even to answer the question, I notice I'm really feeling into this experience of being alive in this moment, and then trying to find words that speak from this place because it's very quiet. My experience of what we call awakening is like a very quiet and curious opening internally. It begins with like a sensory awareness, but drops even deeper than that. And there's a sense of letting down guard, letting down my guard, and actually just checking in. What is here in this moment? What's alive and coming through? And this word that often comes from this place is peace. There's an experience of harmony and having less opinions about what is showing up in the awareness. And I'm curious, as I discuss this, what comes up for you? What's your experience of awakening?
I love the way you describe it and some of the words that you use. And I might use slightly different words, but it is about self-examination. So even hearing you talk, it's like hearing it from somewhere much deeper than my mind. And there is this experience of nothing going on inside. I'm not interpreting your words, I'm not understanding them, I'm not making a meaning out of them or comparing them to my experience. It's hearing them so openly and not letting them have anywhere to land. And so, in that, there's no sense of a separate self. So, for me, awakening is about realizing myself and busting this egoic identity, that sense of self that wants to understand. Because, of course, the impulse is there. I want to know so that I can feel like I'm in control and I'm safe and I know what to do and I know what to say and I know how to respond and I can show up in a way where you'll like me and other people will see me and I'll be special. And so for me, awakening is waking up out of that trance.
Yeah, I really resonate with what you're saying there, Jonas. What comes up for me is this awareness of how a world of movement that normally, and before I discovered the Leela school and before I discovered this language around awakening, I would normally be really absorbed in doing, and really like responding to the sensations that are coming up and the thoughts that are coming up, and really being in this world of being someone who has something to do and is always doing that, and this forward momentum of going, even when relaxing, the going to get something, to do something. And yeah, when you said that it's the end of separation, I had this big exhale because it's like, oh, There's this exhale, the pressure comes out of that having to do everything. And there's that once an experience of like just putting it all down and then letting the lens of experience widen to see what's even bigger, what's holding this idea of me who has to do something. And am I really separate from that experience that's wider? Am I really just this small, busy me? And that question invites me deeper, wider, bigger.
I really like how you refer to it as movement. So for maybe somebody who's not familiar with that language, I wonder if you can say a bit more.
Well, in this experience here, when I turn my attention onto myself, there's like a lot to do. And so there's sensations that are rising or going in certain ways, and there are thoughts that like have something that's happening. And so for me, I experience it very much as like a physical movement, like, oh, there's something I need to either like address or push down or heal or do something with or fix or like respond to. And that's what I mean when I say movement. And I would say that awakening, as we're describing it, for me is detaching from movement, disengaging with it, and being very quiet instead. I wonder, is movement a word that you would use in your experience?
Yeah, I would. For me, it's really about moving into my head. I can be quite mental in trying to figure out or get the answer or to know, as I described. And so that's moving away from my experience of quiet, open stillness, right? Which is quite the opposite of movement. And yeah, when I'm in my head, it's noisy and it's paranoid and it creates a lot of suffering because it's all based in fear. So awakening for me also is really about being still. And it doesn't mean that those impulses stop, and it doesn't mean that the fear goes away, but to actually just be completely still and not move at all. Then there's the opportunity to feel what's deeper and to see through the lie of this person who thinks he's in control and knows what to do.
I'm hearing you use the word lie. Can you tell us more about this lie of this person who thinks he's in control and knows what to do?
Yeah, it's believing that I am my mind and that I am these thoughts that I hear in my head, and it's the sound of my voice, and I'm commenting on what's going on, and I know, well, you're saying this because of this, and now I need to do this. And it's all completely made up. It's just a way for me to feel like I know what's going on. So it's a survival mechanism. And just in examining it simply gets quiet.
I notice your whole body language changes. And I resonate with that as well, because it's like, yeah, I can totally like be someone who's gonna get things done and like really do it just right.
That's right. It's same with you when you were talking about all these things you had to do. Like I could feel the effort and the pressure and the movement and the energy of it. And so to stop and just examine, everything gets quiet and still. And so the energy changes, the feeling in the body changes, my experience of life changes. Like you said, it gets more open. there's an experience of this vastness and a depth of silence and the emotion of love. It's amazing. It's like I never thought I would experience love in this way because I always knew it as someone loves someone else or something. But when I'm really still, there's this experience of love that is detached from any subject or object. There's no one loving anything. There's just love as my experience of life.
It's like the substance of being.
And isn't that what makes this podcast so amazing? That's why we're here, because to talk about love as the substance of being, I mean, that's what makes life fulfilling to me.
So I wonder if you can say something about, okay, so if we're living in this experience of love as the substance of being, for me, I would use the word to say it's really connected with nature, being natural. Because nature is this also, it's also like a benevolent, invisible, and yet so obvious force. So obvious and embracing. So I do love love as well, but nature is a word that has a really sweet, open meaning for me. And I wonder if we can talk about, okay, if we are awake and living from this experience of love, how does that look different?
I also really like the word nature, and the one that I might use that's, a little different is just natural. Because my experience of living as a separate egoic identity, asleep in this trance of being Jonas, was that I was very unnatural. It was very robotic, of like I going into my head and I'm going to get the answers so that I could say it in a certain way so that it comes across as natural, but really is so far removed from it. And so in being still, coming from empty, open love, there's this naturalness where these words that I'm saying right now, they're just flowing out. I'm not choosing them. I'm not going into my head to figure out, okay, say it like this. It just comes out in a very spontaneous way. And the felt experience of it is that there's just no sense of self. There's no me. And it's really profound. Hard to even describe in words.
There's less to say.
And yet I feel like I could talk all day about it. Yeah, that's just my love coming out.
I suppose that's why we're calling this speaking from silence.
Yeah, I guess we've decided on a title for the podcast. Just right now. So I wonder if maybe you would want to speak a little more about your experience because I think it's so useful that we can use different words.
Yeah, silence is a word that's very clear. And in a way, for me, this word is also instructive. It's like if I have a moment of like looking for something or trying to get something, I feel there's this like pressure in my chest and like, oh, a squeeze of like have to or else. And it's very loud and it's constricting and painful and limited, actually. Um, and it has this like despairing quality of feeling like I'll never get out of this always having to do something, which is what I would call suffering. And so to have now an opportunity to to take that pressure off just by changing my perspective, by not believing that that's all there is. It's not to say that, for example, life isn't real or the body isn't real, as much as it is to say that it's not all there is. And I certainly don't have control over it the way that I would like to in an egoic way. And so silence is this word. Yeah, just like even saying it, it's like I feel my physical body relax. There's a surrender. There's an awareness of actually, I'm making the experience loud with my attention and energy and effort and thinking and constant striving for something. And so to turn the other way and to internally notice the noise and just to let it be there, but to continue being quiet. It's like then locating who I am as quiet changes everything. There's space here now. There's an experience of like physically flowing and not needing to control anything. And it's not like life stops as much as merging with what life is and then showing up with what arises. So I would even repeat your words, being natural.
I wonder what you might say to someone who hears this and loves this experience of silence and not needing to control anything and being at peace and spacious, but then has this life to live, having to make money and pay rent and everything else that comes with being a human being, how to be natural in all of that.
Yes, is what I would say. Yes, there's no right or wrong. There's no instruction on how things need to go. And yet, in this experience right now of surrendering into a deeper experience of being, honestly, I experience simple clarity about what's happening and if I need to do something, yes. And I'm not spending a lot of time thinking about it in advance or planning it mentally beforehand or reflecting and ruminating on things that happened before. I'm not obsessed with making things happen as much as being available and being myself in what is here. So I still, clear the snow off my car in the morning, and I have a job that I'm happy to go to. And I buy groceries and I pay rent and all of that. It's all included. And it's not all there is. There's more than that. And I wish I had clear instructions for how someone can achieve this state. But in my experience, more valuable than instruction is contact with people who transmit this. So the transmission is quite clear, actually. Touches something very deep, much deeper than words can. And it's how I received it. It's through contact with people who reflect this deeper than words.
Yeah, that was the start for me as well. And really, another reason for this podcast. Yes, we love talking about awakening because this is what our life is about. But also just seeing how this might be useful for people because we're not spiritual teachers. We are two very regular people living very regular lives. And yet here we are waking up, discovering ourselves, being natural in the world. And like you said, still wiping snow off our cars and working and paying the bills. So if it's possible for us, it's possible for anyone.
And getting it wrong. I've I've been looking for awakening for a long time, and I've looked in all kinds of places that just bring more suffering, that bring a smaller world rather than an expanded experience of the world. And it's all welcome. And that's why I love to share this, speaking with you, Jonas, is because we both are still learning. And yet we've both had experiences that are so clear that it is possible now to speak about them in a way that we hope is really accessible, in a way that might serve and reflect the same possibility to others.
Yeah, it's beautifully said. There's really this natural intelligence that comes along with self realization, in my experience, to the point where there's no doubt. And so, yes, we can speak about what we've realized. And yes, we can speak about our challenges. And as you said, where we're going wrong. And there's nothing wrong with that. My experience, everything that happens, every mistake, every trigger, it's all an opportunity for awakening, to go even deeper. And I would say that's what my life is about now.
And life is a teacher.
And what's more loving than just letting yourself be exactly as you are, not needing anything to be different.
It gets very quiet.
It is very quiet.
Maybe this is a good place to close today.
You started by talking about silence, and now we're ending with silence. Feels perfect.
Thank you, Jonas.
Yes, thank you, Maeve. I love our conversations, and I look forward to the next one.
Me too.